running without an tutorial, and this is going to be like a part 2. In the part 1 for this very image, we did the color grading to have this nice beautiful orange and teal look, and for the part 2 we're going to be doing the skin retouching for this full body image. And what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a trick or a technique that I use to have that nice smooth skin for my full body images in just Photoshop. So stick around and you're going to be learning about all that. So the very first thing I do before doing the skin retouching on the full body images, I first of all have to crop the image. And when I'm cropping the image, I come to this crop tool and I come to and choose the ratio of 45 or 8:10. So I select the crop ratio. Then I'm going to straighten up the image by moving or holding down and dragging the edges. And I'm just going to crop it in just a little bit, just like that, to get rid of this soft box right here. So I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard, and I want to get rid of this soft box right here. I'm going to get my spot healing brush tool, and I'm going to increase on the size of the spot healing brush tool. I'm just going to dab over this soft box to try and eliminate it from the image or from the frame of this very image. So, and after I've done removing it, I'm going to go straight into the blemish remover before I can dive into the skin retouching for this particular image in Photoshop. So I think it has done a pretty nice job. I'm just going to eliminate the stand right here. So I'm going to zoom into this image, and I'm going to look for those blemishes or skin imperfections for this very portrait. So I'm just going to get them. I'm just dab over to eliminate or remove them. So I'm just going to remove this because it looks a little distracting, and I'm just going to clean up the model's feet just like that. And I think we are almost done. Let me clean up this floor, and I think that is all for the blemish removal. And for this case, I'm going to be using my frequency separation action for a 16-bit image. And for those interested in how to record and save the frequency separation actions, I'm going to put a link for you guys above here so that you can learn about how to create and save your retouching actions to speed up your skin retouching in Photoshop. So the link is going to be right above here. I'm going to come right down here under my actions, and I'm going to select my 16-bit action, and I'm going to play it. So when I play it, it will stop at a point where I have to choose the Gaussian blur radius, and for this case I'm going to zoom out slightly and look for that area that seems to have more textures than the rest of the image, and for this case is the model's face. I'm going to move the radius slightly up to that point when I'm losing out on the details in the model's face. So I think at around 4 we have lost out on these details, and I'm going to hit OK on a keyboard or just right on this option, and it's going to create for me a black and white layer inside of my frequency separation group. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to come and get my mixer brush tool. For settings, make sure it is a clean brush, and wetness is 9, load 75, mix 90, and the flow 100. But don't forget to select this option because we want the brush to be automatically cleaned by Photoshop every time we are trying to blend or even out the skin tones in this particular image. So since we are only dealing with the colors and the skin tones, we only want to work on this low frequency layer. So make sure that sample all layers is not checked or marked. So I'm just going to turn off the black and white layer, and I'm going to zoom in the image just slightly, and you're going to start from the model's face. So I'm holding down Command plus or Control plus to zoom in the image. I'm just going to start evening out the tones of the image. So in order to reduce or increase on the size of your mixer brush tool, simply use the brackets on the keyboard to do that. So I'm just basically trying to even out the skin tones in this particular image using the mixer brush tool while retaining the original skin textures that are meant to be in this very image. And for my full body images, I prefer not to do so much of the mixing or blending because no one is going to be able to zoom in and look for those details, unlike for the close-up images. So I'm just going to come to the model's hand or arm. I don't know what you prefer to call it. I'm just going to blend those areas. And the way I'm blending the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone in this particular image to even out or smoothen the details or the tones, and basically try to harmonize them. So we are just going to come to the model's legs or feet. So this time around I'm going to be using the black and white. So I'm just going to double click right here, and I'm going to brighten up the reds just a little bit to see the unevenness in the tones, and select the low frequency layer, and I'm going to start evening out those colors or tones on the model's legs, just like that. And for the areas where you're not quite sure of the colors in those areas, simply turn off the black and white layer and just continue evening out on the tones, just like that. So just come and even out every single tone that is not meant to be in some particular areas. So just even them out just like that. So don't mind if at all you accidentally skip out on some areas, because I'm going to be sharing a technique that is going to help you guys really perfect your skin retouching process, but at the same time rather retaining the original details or sharpness in your images. So just stick around, and I'm going to be sharing that after we have blended using the mixer brush tool. So I think we have done a pretty nice job and a decent job to the blending and evening out of the skin tones in this particular image. So let's see the before and after so far. So this is the before after. So we are going to delete the black and white layer. So just simply select it and come and delete the black and white layer. So come to the low frequency layer and hit Ctrl or Command J to make a copy out of this layer. Then come to filter and come to Imagenomics. So you always have to have portraiture or the portraiture filter plugged in into your Photoshop. So come to the portraiture and you're going to select it. So the settings I prefer to use for my full body images, I prefer to pull the fine all the way to around 15 or 16, and the threshold rather to around, I prefer to leave it at around 37, and simply hit OK. So this is going to be fine-tuning the image even more and smoothen out the skin tones of this particular image. So let's just get I think that looks fine and decent. So let's see a before and after before our portraiture plugin was applied to this image. So you can see the before after. You can see it has really smoothened out and made the skin look finer for this particular image. So you can see what we have done for skin retouching so far. This is the before after. So right now what I would love to do, I want to add that kind of pop kind of feel to this image. I'm going to come to the selective color option, and I'm going to come under the blacks, and I'm going to select the blacks. So I'm going to pull in my blacks a little bit around 3, and I'm going to add that kind of cinematic look to this image by pulling the yellows to around -6. So since I want to leave the image like this, I'm going to show you guys the best way to export your images after you're done retouching them. So simply come to a file and come to export and come to export as. So when you come to export as, it is going to bring up this little window right here, and when it brings up this window, just come and wait for the preview to load. And as it is loading, you have the format. This is more of the name of the image or the name of the file you want to save. So for this case, I'm going to select JPEG, quality at 100. So if at all you want a sharp image to be exported, make sure you select resampling as by cubic sharper, and now select it. Make sure you leave the canvas size and width size at the default. So we have the color space. You know that there are some instances whereby we do export images and they tend to have a color shift or color change. So make sure you convert sRGB and embed color profile. And in this case, you won't be able to experience that problem after you have saved or exported your images, after doing the skin retouching. And after you have done all that, just simply come to export, and you can name the image any name you want. So I'm going to name it Mavis because it is the name of the model, and I'm going to select the location where I want the image to be saved, and that is my desktop. And I'm going to hit save, and it's going to take a few seconds to save this very image in that specific folder. And when it is done saving that image, it is automatically going to close this window. And I think that is all for skin retouching and the color grading process for the part 1 and part 2 of full body images. And if at all you have learned something new from this tutorial, don't forget to like this video and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If at all you have been watching from this channel for the very first time, Ronix from Ronix Photography, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in yet more tutorials. And don't forget to keep practicing and keep creating.